ايه تيست مايك ساوند تشيك 1 2 ها. ايوه هذه قناه انجليزيه. تمام. معليش سامحوني والله بس. ها والله مع الاسف هو ما في الا انك تمسكه بس. تواصل معهم ما عندك مشكله. حقك. تيست مايك ساوند تشيك. طب استنى يا باشمهندس دقيقه. باشمهندس يقول لك ما في طريقه الا كذا كانه انا المحتاج تيست مايك ساوند تشيك. مو طالع شيء صح؟ ما في صوت طالع. خلاص كويس كذا تمام. بس انا سمعت. لا انا سمعت مني ولا ماشي. ايوه لازم في ديلي. لازم ترفع بسم الله. تيست مايك. تيست ايه. طيب تيست 1 تيست 1 تيست 1. هذا متحدث اللغة الفرنسية. فرنسا فرنسا فرنسي 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 فرنسي. تيست 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 تيست. ايوه هذا مصيبة المفروض في الانجليزي ما تسمع. اين ممكن تتابع؟ يوتيوب حق امان. يوتيوب مباشرة ان شاء الله. السلام عليكم.
زوجته في المطبخ وقال يعني يمزح معها شوية، فبدأ معها قال لها انظر لي عينك فضيلتك كده لم تكن معك يعني.
عادي نفتح المايك بيناتكم عشان نسمع. ما تجسس لكن في صوت ها؟ لا دقيقة أنا معاهم في الغرفة دقيقة.
فقال ما
السلام عليكم تيست. الو الو السلام عليكم تيست 1 2 3. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم السلام عليكم اهلا وسهلا. السلام عليكم. هلا.
انت سامع الانجليزي بس، الانجليزي بس، تمام. الفرنسي مو مسموع. ممتاز، خلاص تمام.
جبل عرفات. السلام عليكم. الحمد لله. الله يبارك.
بقول البرد شديد عنده، بقول له عايز اخفض هناك. نشوف يبدو انه بياخذ وقت.
ايوه. كيف حالك؟ بالامس ما كنت موجود. الحمد لله. انت دوامت اليوم ولا؟
لا انا كنت في الخفاء في المكتب ودافع بس
انا دخلت المكتب مرتين.
انا باك اوفيس.
باك اوفيس. لا انا دخلت مكتبك مرتين ما شفتك.
انا كنت معمول بقى على وضع الصامت. ما شفتنيش يبقى اكيد ما يعني نظرت يعني جوه الغرفه ولا لا؟
لا نظرت على الكرسي بس.
امس عارف يعني ذكرتني واحد من اول اجتماعات
لكن كان صباح الباكر ممكن انت وصلت ممكن بعد ذلك.
يحيى جود الله يرحمه كان في كابينه الانجليزي، وبعدين جيت انا بحصل احد لما ارى احد في الكابينه فرحت للشاشيه قلت الكابينه الانجليزي فاضيه يعني خلاني قال لي لا هو جالس كده تحت وشغال اي يبدو انه هذا كان شويه عالي وهو ماخذ راحته يعني شبه مستلقي يعني يكون في طهران
حتى في
ايوه في طهران
مش في جدة.
لا في طهران. هذا كان اول اجتماع لي انا خارج جده حصل فيه هذه المشكله يعني هذا الكيس والكيس الثاني بتاع ابو سلطان الله يرحمه لما الايراني قال بيرشن قال اوبريشن كونسل وهو ترجمها من الخليج العربي والايراني كان يسمع فقرر هو قرر ايضا عربي فنادي السوسي قال له هذا مترجم
هي اساس رفض.
على اساس انه هذا بيأدي شغله يعني. انا ما عارف ايش المحتوى.
اذا كان في الحقيقه المتحدث قال شيء بالبدايه ممكن
هو طبعا لانه المتحدث هو المسمى، غير المسمى، لكن طبعا ما من حقه يعني. ابو سلطان هو اصلا حتى العرب المفروض يسمعوا انه الايراني قال البيرشن عشان يكون عندهم حق الرد. لانه انت لما تنقل المعلومه صحيحه من عندك وما يسمعها الشخص الاخر، بعدين ممكن يجي لك بعد الاجتماع يقول لك ليش ما تجاوب عشان انا ارد.
الخليج العربي والخليج الفارسي.
هم العرب اختصروا هذا الموضوع، سموه مجلس التعاون الخليجي. شالوا في البدايه كان اسمه دول الخليج، مجلس التعاون الدول الخليج العربيه. الصفه رجعت للدول ليس للخليج.
Cooperation Council of the Gulf.
الان جي سي سي جلف كوبريشن كونسل.
لا تخيل هو ده
ثاني عايز
Cooperation Council of the Arab States of the Gulf.
ايوه هو هذه التسميه الاولى اصلا.
لا هذا هو الجديد.
لا ايامها كانت كده. يمكن بس هو بالانجليزي مشهور بالجي سي سي.
جي سي سي ايوه.
لكن هم خروجا من الحرج هذا في العربيه هو دول الخليج العربي.
ايوه. Cooperation Council of the Arab States of the Gulf. Also known as Gulf Cooperation Council.
وطبعا
فقالوا مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية.
ايوه عربيه على الدول. وطبعا في الخرائط العربيه كلها هو بيرشن.
أنا شفته
حتى كنت اذكر كان ايام حرب الخليج الاولى 91 ما كان في ساتلايتس، كان مرات بيجيبوا تسجيلات لاخبار السي ان ان القناه السعوديه. فالمذيع لما يقول بيرشن جلف، الخبر يقول بيرشن جلف، بتشوفه بيعمل جلف، بيكتم الصوت، بتشوف حركه النفس
حتى إلى الإنجليزية.
ايوه نعم يكتم الصوت. مش عارف حكيت لك هذه ولا لا. هذه قالت واحدة سيدة يعني أبوها منضبط في البيت هي وزوجها، وبعدين هي تعرف إنه أبوها زوجها يعني يحب من الدجاجة الصدر، وهي عندها نصف دجاجة فقط، الصدر والرجل. فهي مش عايزة يعني تبين لأبوها إنها عايزة تقول زوجها يعني، في نفس الوقت هذا أبوها يعني. فاستخدمت أسلوب دهاء شديد، فخسفت أخذت الصدر وأعطته لزوجها. الفقر كلمة بني سوداني معناها يعني تعيس أو كذا، تعيس. أنت الفقر خذ الصدر. وبعدين أخذت الرجل اللي هي عندنا في البنية السودانية تسمى الضراع. الضراع أيضا another expression which means يعني شخص شهم. أخذت الرجل وضعتها أمام أبوها، وأنت الضراع خذ الكراع. They start at 10, I think. هو كل واحد يقول لك يا اخي ما حيقول مش حيقول ما جينا ما حيقول. السحباني
صهباني هذا
يبدو لي لابس
مشلحة.
المشلحة.
أيوة.
بشير عنده نكات عجيبة. قال دائما يعني في ايطاليا قال هو كان شغال مترجم مع شركة مع مدير شركة عندها يعني بارتنرشيب. هي شركة إيطالية بارتنرشيب مع شركة بريطانية. وكان مدير الشركة البريطانية هذه جاي إيطاليا فيعني يتكلم بالتليفون مع المدير عن طريق بشير. فبقول له يعني بشير بقول له المدير البريطاني هذا هم عملوا ترتيبات عملوا بحيث في الفندق وكذا. فالمدير الإيطالي بيقول له لا قول له أنا عندي بيت كبير ما يمشي فندق يجي عندي يعني. فقال الإنجليزي قال له tell him I'll sleep with him but not on the same bed.
اخ ماهر جه بيسالني بيقول لي معلش افتح المايك واتكلم فدفعت قال لي لا ده بتاع القاعه. قلت له طيب ما هو التاني اهو. قال لي لا في واحد تالت. قلت له طيب بتاع اليوتيوب. قلت له في بتاع الانستجرام طيب. يعني اذا 3 مايكس موجودين المفروض.
أنا مش عارف هذا يعني فنيا هذه المشكلة ممكن يكون مايك واحد يديهم كلهم فنيا كده يعني. لا أنت عارف
المفروض
الشاب ده
عندك مصدر.
بتاع التلفزيون ده اللي قال لي الميكروفون هذا لازم تمسكه كده. قلت له والله متأسف أنا بشتغل مش همسك الميكروفون. عايز تاخده كده
تعالى انت مش لا صعب يعني مش منطق بصراحه. سبحان الله.
لو قول له ما عندك حل غير كده قول له أنا اللي محتاج الخدمة ولا أنت يعني عشان تقول له ما عندك حل غير كده.
ده يعني ده عدى الحدود. عليكم السلام.
أيوه كده أيوه كده
المفروض يكون عندك مساعد مترجم. يجيب لك مساعد مترجم. يمسك المايك. زي المشايخ كده. الشيخ اما يقرا تلاقي واحد مش هيجي يجيب له ينسون. شوف كمان سلك احمر يعني ده معناه ان هو بتاع هاي ليفل. هاي ليفل مايك. وهناك يا دكتور يا دورك بيلفظ انفاسه وشكل.
قضيت الدور بتاعي بدون ولا خطأ واحد.
يلتمس ببنت شافها ولا ابن شافها.
شوف كيف المستوى العالي من المهنية ولا خطأ واحد.
نعم الحمد لله. يعني إذن تبدأ العاشرة ممكن.
والله يعني أنا كنت متوقع كده بس أنا شايفه لحد الآن بدردشوا كده والعشرة جات يعني.
ما خلاص يعني
بس سنجوندو راح جلس. سنجوندو ويا سمير بكر.
لا المنصة يعني موجود.
المنصة فاضية يعني الجزء اللي أنا شايفه من المنصة ما في ولا أحد.
موجود يعني.
يمكن راحوا يستقبلوا الأمين العام ولا كده.
العكس بقى.
لا هنا نقصد الدخول.
who have traveled from afar to participate in the symposium today. Thank you for making the effort to be here. We are looking forward to your presentation. It's now my honor, my distinct honor, to request our host, His Excellency Mr. Hussein Brahim Taha, Secretary General of the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, to deliver his opening remarks. Excellency, you have the floor.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, peace and blessings of Allah be on the Prophet. Your Excellency, Ambassador Sheikh Niam, Chairman of the Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People, Excellency Khalid Khayari, Representative of UN Secretary General, Excellency Minister Riyad Mansour, Permanent Observer of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, Excellency Permanent Representative of the OIC, of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the OIC, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allow me at the outset to express gratitude and appreciation for your participation in this international symposium on the cause of Quds, which has an important political implications, especially in underlining the centrality of this cause for the OIC and the United Nations. It also reflects the joint commitment to continue our effective and tangible efforts to enable the Palestinian people to obtain their legitimate rights. Allow me at the outset to express my sincere appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia under the leadership of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz, and his companions, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Prime Minister, for its leading role in supporting the Palestinian people and their legitimate rights, and for all the initiatives and positions taken in support of the cause of the Muslim Ummah. I would also like to express the OIC's appreciation for the efforts undertaken by the United Nations and its various agencies, including the esteemed committee, its chairman, His Excellency Ambassador Sheikh Niand, and all members of the Bureau for their tireless efforts to serve the just Palestinian cause. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is being held at a time when we all sense the seriousness of the conditions that the occupied city of Al-Quds is witnessing as a result of the repeated Israeli attacks on its Islamic and Christian holy sites, its people who are holding fast, and its Arab identity through settlement policies, land confiscation, house demolition, construction of the apartheid wall, and attacks on worshippers, Muslims, Christians, and other serious violations. In this regard, we reiterate that the holy city of Al-Quds, the capital of the state of Palestine, is an integral part of the Palestinian territory occupied in 1967, and that all Israeli policies and procedures are illegal and illegitimate and encroach upon the political, historical, and legal rights of the Palestinian people. They constitute a blatant violation of the rules of international law and relevant UN resolutions. They are likely to take the conflict to a dangerous religious dimension that threatens security and stability in the entire world, which requires responsible international action to put an end to it. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we reaffirm our principal position at the OIC condemning the open Israeli military aggression against the Gaza Strip, which continue for more than 8 months, leading to the fall of nearly 40,000 martyrs and injury of 80,000 people, most of whom are women, children, and the destruction of hundreds of thousands of buildings, properties, and civilian infrastructure, and the forced displacement of more than 1 million Palestinians from their homes, and denying humanitarian aid access to the Gaza Strip. While expressing our disappointment at the failure of the United Nations Security Council to oblige Israel, the occupying power, to implement its resolutions calling for an immediate and comprehensive ceasefire and complete withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces, and ensuring safe, sustainable, and unhindered access of humanitarian aid to all parts of the Gaza Strip, it is our hope that the international community, states, and organizations will bear their legal, political, and moral responsibilities towards putting an end to the crime of genocide, which threatens to expand the cycle of violence and instability in the entire region. We also commend the major role of UNRWA and reject the attempts of the Israeli occupation to undermine its efforts and a vital role, which is not only limited to providing humanitarian and basic services to Palestinian refugees, but also contributes to enhancing stability in the region. We call for increased funding for UNRWA and hold the Israeli occupation responsible for the crimes committed against its employees and facilities and all workers in humanitarian and relief organizations. We also stress in this regard the importance of activating international criminal justice and reject double standards regarding achieving justice for victims and bringing criminals to account. Furthermore, we underline the need to use available international judicial mechanisms to deter Israeli occupation, prevent it from committing more crimes, and put an end to the state of impunity for its past and ongoing violations. Ladies and gentlemen, while welcoming the recent decision of many countries to recognize the state of Palestine as a historic step to support the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, we at the OIC hope that countries that have not yet recognized the state of Palestine will promptly do so and support full Palestinian UN membership. We also call again on all parties of international community to engage in sponsoring an irreversible political path to end the illegal Israeli occupation and achieve peace. On the basis of the two-state solution, allow me to conclude by reiterating that the OIC will continue to support the cause of Palestine as its first priority and the center of its concerns. The OIC will spare no efforts in supporting and assisting the Palestinian people in their quest to restore their inalienable national rights, including their rights to return, self-determination, and establishing their independent state on the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, with Al-Quds Sharif as its capital, and in achieving a just solution to the issue of Palestinian refugees. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We want to thank Secretary General Hussein Ibrahim Taha. We thank you for your strong and inspiring opening speech, and on behalf of the members of the Bureau who are here with me, and on behalf of the entire committee, I wish to express our appreciation to you for supporting the committee through the OIC over these years. We are grateful for the strong positions that you continue to host on the issue of Palestine and on the issue of Palestine in general, particularly at this time that is witnessing the war against the Gaza people. And the Palestinian people the Israelis are perpetrating crimes against the Palestinian people. Therefore, we thank you for these positions there. At this time, I would like to call upon the representative of the host country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Ambassador Saleh Sobahabaini, the permanent representative of the OIC, of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the OIC, to kindly deliver his address. On behalf of the committee, I want to thank you for your country's support for the committee. Peace and blessings of Allah be on the Prophet. Excellency, Secretary General of the OIC, Mr. Hussein Ibrahim Taha, the Assistant Secretary General of the UN for Near East, Ambassador Khalid Khayari, Chairman of the UN Committee on the Exercise of Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People, Ambassador Sheikh Niang, Ambassador of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, Iyad Mansour, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express grand appreciation to the Chairman of the Committee on the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People for their concrete efforts in defending the rights of the Palestinian people and increasing the international awareness about the issue of the Palestinian people and the efforts toward finding a solution to the problem of the Palestinian people, including their right to self-determination and the establishment of their rights. These are efforts that contribute to bring about peace and stability. We also want to thank the General Secretariat of the OIC for its principal role and its earnest efforts in order to support the Palestinian people to attain their rights and to establish their state, given that the issue of Palestine is the central issue of the OIC. I also want to thank them for the excellent arrangement for this symposium at this very critical time the Palestinian issue is witnessing. We hope that this event will shed light on the Al-Quds and the inhumane activities that are being perpetrated by the Israeli authorities. Today I'm speaking, ladies and gentlemen, about the city of Al-Quds, which Allah has mentioned in his book as a testament to the wonders of the journey and the ascension. It is a city that we are not happy about what is going on in that city and the violations and the barbaric practices by the Israeli authorities over many years, about 50 years. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the policies of the Israeli occupation to expel our people from West Bank and Gaza is a policy of forced expulsion that the Israeli authorities have practiced since many years, and this is based on the policies on the forced expulsion of people from the people and what we have been called as the ethnic cleansing that the some people say that Zionism is a policy to expel the original owners of the lands of Palestine. The Palestinians are living in their country since that time between expulsion and genocide. Unfortunately, and the forced expulsion of Palestinians has gone through many historical stages, and after the occupation of 1947, the Israeli opposites, as you know, have transferred the people of Gaza to Erasure in Egypt, which the Egyptian authority were aware of the machinations, and Sharon at that time embarked on this plan in the Sinai dynasty. Egypt worked against these plans, and at this time, the Israeli opportunities have proposed a plan to expel the Gazan people to Egypt, and the Egyptian authorities have stood very firm against these plans. And we shouldn't forget at this time to commend particularly, apart from the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, also the Jordanian and the strong Egyptian positions against the machinations that seek to expel our brotherly Palestinian people from the West Bank and Gaza, which is being considered as the second Nakba. And in this regard, we call on the member states that want peace to support this effort. It is not unknown to you that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with the directives of the custodian of the two Holy Mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz, that has led the committee to provide contributions to the Palestinian community, and the efforts of the Prime Minister Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, and its work with diplomatic efforts with Arab and Islamic countries over many channels, and continuous efforts at high levels to give momentum for the Palestinian issue and to have a stop of all the barbaric Israeli policies through the holding of many summits, both ordinary and extraordinary, and also the issues that constitute the primacy of the agenda of the OIC meetings at both official and since the start of the crisis with all leaders. This is a part of the OIC's initiative that shows the position of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the issue of Palestine, and to affirm the importance of the need for the Israeli authorities to abide by the international law and to lift sanctions on the Gaza Strip, while affirming its rejection of the forced expulsion of the Palestinian peoples and finding a just and lasting solution to the Palestinian issue in a way that will guarantee the Palestinian people a dignified life in sustainable peace. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has pursued a policy at the international forums and has given generous financial support and continue to support this issue. This is in addition to the efforts of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Prince Faisal bin Farhan, traveling through many capitals and holding political consultations with ministers across the world, whether through the six-man committee or even in his personal capacity, to highlight the Palestinian issue. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has called on the Security Council many times to assume their historical responsibility to restore the rights of the Palestinian people after the General Assembly of the United Nations voted in support of full membership of Palestine to the United Nations. And this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia also welcomed the adoption of the General Assembly that affirmed that the state of Palestine is qualified for full membership of the United Nations. And in this regard, we appreciate the positions of these countries, and it reflects the international consensus about the rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a good opportunity to thank very warmly the peace-loving countries that are non-member states of the OIC from all parts of the world that supported that historical resolution of the United Nations General Assembly, as well as to thank the countries that have recognized the state of Palestinians. This is a reflection of clear support for the efforts being done by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia through cooperation and coordination with active members of the United Nations. Excellencies, the cooperation between your committee and the General Secretariat of the OIC is a good sign that many peoples of the world will continue to support the Palestinian cause. We want to underscore here the importance of lifting the suffering of the Palestinian people and making known to the wider generation and the generality of the international community, and to seek the support of the non-governmental organizations to highlight about the atrocities of the Israeli authorities, and also call upon them to organize more of these symposia and events to highlight these causes. We want to affirm that the Palestinian people have suffered for far too long, and the Israeli authorities have confiscated their properties, and they continue to do so, unfortunately. The Palestinian people are suffering to attain their right to live in dignity, in security and in stability, including in the establishment of the state of Palestine with Al-Quds Sharif as its capital. On this score, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia affirms that its continued support for the Palestinian people is a product of a strong belief of the just cause of the Palestinian cause. At the end, I want to express my gratitude to you all, the audience, for your attendance, and for we also appreciate the General Secretariat for excellent organization of this meeting, and also to thank the colleagues who have flown in from the United Nations to participate in this event. Thank you very much.
while at the same time, Israel's legitimate security concerns, particularly in the wake of the acts of terror committed on 7 of October, must be addressed. Gaza is and must remain an integral part of a future Palestinian state, with no reductions in its territory. Gaza and the West Bank must be unified politically, economically, administratively. They must be governed by a Palestinian government that is recognized and supported by the Palestinian people and the international community. If transitional arrangements are required, they must be designed to achieve a unified Palestinian government within a precise and limited time frame. There can be no long-term solution in Gaza that is not fundamentally political. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by reaffirming that the only viable path to a peaceful future is the outcome we have had in our sights already for so long, a two-state solution, on the basis of UN resolution and international law, with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security. Israeli Palestinians, countries in the region, and the broader international community must take urgent steps that will enable the parties to re-engage on the long-delayed political path to achieve peace and a two-state solution. Palestinians are counting on us all to reflect today on how we can turn this vision of peace into reality. We cannot afford to wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, SG Khiari, for your statement and for sharing with us a very powerful message of the Secretary General Antonio Guterres. The committee appreciates the support that the UN Secretariat and particularly the Secretary General have been providing to our committee and the Division for Palestinian Rights, but more importantly, the support to our collective pursuit of the achievement by the Palestinian people of their inalienable rights. And we especially appreciate the many statements made by Secretary General Antonio Guterres and other high-ranking UN officials. You are doing the same very often at the UN and elsewhere. And those statements have been made throughout the war on Gaza in support of maintaining international law and international humanitarian law and to hold all perpetrators of violations accountable. I will now deliver remarks in my capacity as chair of the United Nations Committee for the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, we gather today in Jeddah as hearts are breaking for the Palestinian people in the entirety of the OPT. The ongoing 9-month-long war on Gaza remains the deadliest in modern times. At least 1.7 million Palestinians have been displaced amidst the Israeli aggression. That is more than 3/4 of the whole population of the Gaza Strip. More than 1 million people do not have drinking water and food, nor access to medical assistance. The recent report by the UN Secretary General on Children and Armed Conflict found that this conflict alone has led to 155% increase of grave violations against Palestinian children. Nothing can justify the collective punishment inflicted on the Palestinian people. The committee reiterates the call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and unimpeded access of assistance throughout Gaza. In the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, the spike of settler violence, the proliferation of illegal Israeli settlements, along with dispossession and demolitions of Palestinian homes, continue to represent a main obstacle to peace. In East Jerusalem, the demographic and historical character of the city continues to be altered by illegal Israeli policies and measures, including the violation of Palestinians' freedoms of movement and worship. It also occurs through the destruction of old buildings and the construction of railroads and cable cars projects, as well as archaeological excavations affecting the Christian and Muslim quarters, to name but a few. The city must be preserved, and the status quo of the holy sites must be upheld, in line with the custodianship of Jordan. Jerusalem must remain the city of 3 religions and 2 peoples. It must be the city it should be, the city of peace. Ladies and gentlemen, the status of Jerusalem forms an intrinsic part of the Tutsi solution, as reaffirmed by countless GA resolutions. We welcome the recent recognition of the State of Palestine, with East Jerusalem as its capital, by Barbados, the Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Norway, Spain, Ireland, and Slovenia. Similar steps are consistent with international law and relevant UN resolutions, and strengthen international efforts aimed at ending the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. We call to accept Palestine's membership in the UN as an independent and fully sovereign state in common with other member states, and to uphold all inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. To this end, we welcome the decision of the General Assembly of the United Nations at its meeting on the 10th of May, supported by 143 countries, supporting the request of the State of Palestine to obtain full membership of the United Nations. We call on the Security Council to reconsider and lift its veto to the draft resolution voted on April the 18th. The devastation of the past 9 months in Gaza has only reinforced the absolute need for both Israel and Palestine, but also the broader international community, and including the member states of the OIC, to continue their active engagement to unblock the stalled political path to achieve a two-state solution. The committee will continue its advocacy efforts with member states and in collaboration with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to achieve a just and lasting peace settlement based on the two-state solution and leading to an independent and sovereign Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. So let us reaffirm our commitment to a diplomatic path forward where Jerusalem remains at the heart of any viable peace solution between Israelis and Palestinians, and serves as a beacon of peace for both people. I thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like now to request the representative of the State of Palestine and permanent observer to the United Nations in New York, Minister Riyad Mansour, to deliver his remarks. You have the floor, Minister.
أخي شيخ نيانغ رئيس اللجنة المعنية لممارسة الشعب الفلسطيني لحقوقه الغير قابلة للتصرف، معالي الأمين العام
Excellency,
للتعاون
Secretary General of the OIC, His Excellency Hussein Ibrahim Taha, my brother Khalid Hiyari, representative of the UN Secretary General, and my brother Dr. Saleh Suhaibani, a representative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is hosting us. My dear colleagues, members of the Bureau of the UN Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People, who have attended, with the exception of one member due to his illness. Dear participants, allow me at the outset to convey to you the greetings of the Palestinian people, including those who suffer painfully in view of the aggressive and the brutal aggression in the Gaza Strip and the leadership of the Palestinian people and President Abbas, who convey to you their greetings and express to you their thanks for the exceptional efforts you have been carrying out together and individually as an OIC and as a UN committee on the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. The committee and the OIC have entered into a strategic partnership long time ago to hold an international conference annually on Al-Quds for the importance of Al-Quds in this aspect for the Palestinian people. And as Al-Quds is the heart, the bottom of the heart of our people, the Palestinian people, Al-Quds is the pearl of the crown. And therefore, we have decided after COVID to come to Jeddah, to the OIC headquarters, to renew to you the desire and the preparedness of the United Nations Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian people to continue this cooperation and to hold the international conference all over the world as we used to do in order to promote the status of Al-Quds city and the importance of having Al-Quds at the heart of any just political solution that responds to the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. In addition to this emphasis and the role to be played by the committee's delegation in Riyadh tonight and tomorrow to meet our brethren in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, whose exceptional efforts are commended under the leadership of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman ibn Abdulaziz, and his Crown Prince, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, in defending the Palestinian cause, as was clearly expressed by Dr. Saleh Sahibani, reflecting the position of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which we, the Palestinian people as leadership, thank it for this position, which has an important role as part of the Muslim and Arab Ummah in the realization of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. We will also delve into deep discussions with the officials of the Foreign Ministry, and we do hope to meet His Excellency Prince Faisal bin Farhan tomorrow in Riyadh to continue these joint efforts in order to hold this aggression against our people and to make progress in the realization of the national rights of the Palestinian people. Allow me to say that since the beginning of this aggression, we have been able in New York to unify the Arab and Islamic position as a position of one single entity, all united around three very important goals for us, the Palestinian people. The first objective is to stop the aggression immediately in the Gaza Strip. Of course, the aggression against our people in the entire land of Palestine, which is occupied, especially in the Gaza Strip, which is exposed to a war of genocide. We also want to respond to the humanitarian assistance required to our people all over the Gaza Strip. The third objective is to stop the crime of war and the forcible migration of our people, which led to more than 2 million people to go out of Gaza or from the north to the south, or from the south to the west. So, in a tragic movement against our people whose houses, schools, and hospitals have been destroyed, and they were denied access to all means of life, including food, water, medicine, all the daily requirements. The third objective, to stop this crime against our people so that we will not suffer another setback. We suffered a lot from the first setback, which is more than enough for us, the Palestinian people, and we do not wish to see it repeated with our Palestinian people. All along 9 months, we have been able to realize a number of resolutions at the level of the Security Council and the General Assembly around these three objectives. However, I'm saying to you, quite honestly, that we have not been able so far to reach the point of the stoppage of aggression against our people, so that we can rebuild the Gaza Strip, which is a precious part of the Palestinian component and the components of the state of Palestine, and we want to rebuild it with the determination of our people and our brothers and all our friends and the entire Islamic and Arab Ummah and all peace-loving peoples around the world. Gaza should not be destroyed. Gaza should be revived. Of course, along this, the Israeli government at the level of the Knesset decided through a decision adopted by 99 votes out of 122 cancelled the state of Palestine. Therefore, we have been obliged to get prepared in a counter plan so that we would not allow Israel to cancel the state of Palestine. Therefore, we have followed the approach of a political line called recognitions of the state of Palestine. We have started with the Caribbean, and we have been able to get the recognition of 4 states investing in peace and the 2-state solution. As was mentioned by my brother Sheikh Niang, he mentioned the names of these 4 states which recognized Palestine in this important political movement, and this attack by these 4 states opened the door for other attacks in Europe. This area, which have been hesitant for a long time at the level of the recognition of Palestine, and limited, it was limited only to Sweden for some years ago, which continued alone. However, the sufferance of our people and the tragedy of our people and the solidarity of the world and the understanding of our tragedy created an environment that supported us in Western Europe, crowned with the recognition by 4 states, Spain, Ireland, Norway, and Slovenia. And lately, Armenia joined them. This second wave in Europe, which we look forward to be followed by other waves. And let me to say at this level, at the level of the conflict, or the conflict to stop the aggression and the stage of recognitions of states, the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee, led by His Excellency Faisal bin Farhan, the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, who have made a tour around capitals of states, including the 5 United Nations Security Council permanent members, to stop this aggression. And this committee is still continuing its work. It is composed of 5 Arab states and 3 Islamic states. They continue to work for more recognitions.
This committee, after our meeting at the Foreign Ministry in Riyadh tomorrow, we will be going to Indonesia and we'll be discussing with officials there and also look for other recognitions in Asian countries, especially because countries such as Australia and New Zealand and South Korea and Japan voted in favor of the resolution calling for a reconsideration of the issue of Palestine admission. So they support us, and we'll be discussing with officials in Indonesia, and we will be discussing for efforts at the part of the ministerial committee such that we can intensify our efforts for our full membership in the United Nations, such that the Security Council can listen to the voices of 149 countries that have supported Palestine request at this point. All of this we are doing because we are the Palestinian people. We want, first of all, a cessation of aggression. We want the war to stop. We want to have Al-Quds as the permanent capital of a country. We want the rights of the people, of our right to self-determination and the right to sovereignty and the return of refugees. We are doing all of this by relying on diplomatic efforts and on international resolutions, including efforts at the International Court, because those perpetrating the crimes against the civilians and Palestinians and against the institutions that provide services to Palestinians, including hospitals, they need to be meted out. They need to receive the punishment they deserve, just as it happened in Europe in the past. And all of this has to be done. I do not want to explain and give you numbers of what the Palestinian people are going through, because you all know these numbers and everybody knows these figures. But what is more important is to agree on the narrative that will assist us to change the situation. We do not want to stress the principles again. We do not want to repeat the objectives after today. What we want to do is to open doors for the implementation of these resolutions and these objectives, such that the Palestinian people can live in dignity and freedom on their territory and in an independent state with Al-Quds Sharif at its capital, as you all call for. But what we want is, we want to move to the level of actions. So after we will have achieved very soon the stoppage of aggression, and we would have attained more recognitions, and once the Palestinian state becomes a full member of the United Nations, and we will be having 2 states in the United Nations, we will now go to the next stage of having negotiations to have a state of Palestine. Therefore, we stretch out our hands to you to assist us both in this hall, because after 76 years, the Palestinian people are saying enough is enough, and we want to move to another stage such that we begin the building and the development of our nation and paying attention to our children. And we want to support them. We want to rebuild their lives, and we want to give them hope of a happy future, a future. We know that you are going to support us in this effort, and we hope that we'll be able to achieve the results as soon as possible. I want to thank you very warmly for this meeting and for the relations between us and for the assistance that you give us, because we insist very strongly to stop the aggression and to achieve the right of our people in full, and to establish the independent state of Palestine with Al-Quds Sharif as its capital. And I thank you all for your attention. Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister Mansour. I want to thank you for your statement. And we share the message of President Mahmoud Abbas. This platform, and you also talked about the fruitful cooperation between our committee and the OIC. This symposium today is an evidence of the international community hearkening to the call of the Palestinian people for the establishment of their right. Excellency, we are close to the end of the opening session, and because of time factor, we will now go into the open panel, and we want to request the representatives of member states and observer states to ask member states that have made statements to send them to the Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People. These remarks will be posted on the websites of the committee and also broadcast on the social media. As you know, we have interpretation, and this interpretation will be provided into Arabic, English, and French. Before I conclude, we would take a short break to allow the keynote speakers of the opening session to depart from the hall. So we will now take a coffee break, and the coffee break coffee will be served on the second floor. Thank you. One machine. Oh, sorry. That's the break, oh?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes OIC now, half an hour.
Yes. Wannan dole ne.
Kuma delegation na Tijjani sun zo.
They have the meeting there.
Sun ce wai ba a gaya musu ba.
Ba ga ma.
Da an yi postpone.
Oh, an yi postpone the meeting na so.
1 o'clock ne aka ce.
To ina postponement. That must be set for when.
Ko su ne ba su gane ba.
Su ne suka nemo ai.
Okay.
Cameroon ne sun nemo meeting.
Kamar sun gaya min cewa kamar an ba su wani time ne.
I think it's 1 o'clock.
Okay, just ko ba su gane ba.
Sun zo nan ba?
Na san Tijjani yana can tare da wani.
Okay.
Tare da abin ko wani.
To. Okay. Wa zai aiki da su? Kai ko Khatali?
Mansur yake Khatali yayi yake segundo kadai ne bai shi Arabci ko French. Sai in zo in mushi shotage.
Okay. Shi
Segundo.
Khatali fa.
Khatali Arabic.
Arabic French. To a hall za ku yi koyi nan. Hall.
Can 11.
Akwai.
To sun so su kasan sun ke suna sa booth.
Yes.
To har yanzu ba su sawa.
To ya za ku aiki.
Consecutive ne kinan Khatali ne zai is the main interpreter.
Yes.
Ni zan so kawai in ga ma wannan abin da ke.
To Allah isa.
Mu kare da wannan.
Yes. It has become a big problem wallahi.
Saboda yanzu ko annual leave ma you cannot decide.
Yes.
By meeting but you cannot free people.
So whether we are going to have it or not, Musani.
Ko wani kasa ne zai dauka ya dauka.
Yes, it's just like the summit. Me, I wanted the summit to hold. This one too, just let it hold.
صحيح.
Yes.
بس زحمه شديده في
في القهوة.
القهوه، ما نقدر ناخذ قهوه. صوت طويل فاخذ شاي.
على غير عادتك.
لانه لو وقفت اخذ قهوه انا بضيع الوقت كله. احد ذكرني هذا بشير قال لك كان في عميد طلب من السكرتيره تعمل له اعلان للاساتذه اجتماعي يوم الاربعاء. فالسكرتيره يبدو انه بعد ما راحت تطبخ جات سالته قالت له الهمزه في الاربعاء هي فوق الالف ولا تحت الالف؟ قال لها خليه الخميس.
لأنه أقول في طبس.
هو نفسه مش عارف قال لها خليه الخميس. وأنا لما كنت في بريطانيا كان عندي في الأول أخذت كورس ترجمة إنجليزي فرنسي. وبعدين ما نفع معي لأنه كانوا معي كلهم فرانكوفونز أو أنجلوفونز عندهم الفرنسي دوري. كان معي واحد مغربي بقول لي يا هشام يعني أنا بستغرب أنت لما تتكلم فرنسي تتكلم كويس لكن ليش تعبت في الكورس يعني؟ بقول في الكلام أنا بقول الشيء اللي عايزه أنا بقوله، إذا في كلمة ما عرفتها بشوف واحدة غيرها.
أيوه.
لكن لما أترجم
لازم صحيح.
لازم أجيب الكلام كله.
صحيح.
أما كلامي أنا بغير فيه على حسب قدراتي.
صحيح صحيح. هذا صحيح.
قال استعمل تعبير زهرة المدائن ما زهرة المدائن القدس زهرة المدائن.
Pills in the crown.
لا هو في الأول جاب تعبير ثاني أنا ترجمته بالبير الأكرام. لكن هو قال اثنين، الأولى البير الأكرام هذه نسيت إيش هو كان. بس الثانية زهرة المدائن أنا تعديت.
زهرة المدائن.
لأنه هو مش من عنده، هي
صفة
يعني
فلسطين.
على القدس.
أوكي.
زهرة
زهرة.
المدائن. هي الترجمة الحرفية بتاعتها طبعا فلاور.
Yes. Of cities. Yes.
لكن ممكن يكون عندها زمان كان أختي تسمع فيروز، عارف فيروز المغنية اللبنانية،
Okay.
فكانت هي تغني لفلسطين كثيرا. هي أظنها أصلا فلسطينية.
السلام عليكم ورحمة
السلام.
الله. هناك السلام عليكم. دكتور هشام كيف حالك؟ بخير؟ الله يبارك فيك. أهلا وسهلا. كيف حالك؟ بخير؟ الله يحفظك. الله يشرح لنا الوجوه الكريمة.
كيفك أنت؟
الحمد لله بخير. الله يحفظك. الله يحفظك.
والله
بارك
بس
الله
أعذرني
فيك.
يعني أنا مقصر.
لا أنا والله أنا تسمح لي إني كنت حابب أتصل عليك في العيد بس كنت
لا،
مسافر
معلش.
والجري مع الأهل في المغرب وهذه
والله
ما
أنا عندي الوالدة صار
الله
لها
يشفيه.
شهر.
الله يشفيه.
هذه المرة الثالثة يعني.
الله يشفيه.
الله يسلمك.
طهور بإذن الله.
الله يسلمك.
طهور من خير الذنوب. حالك أخ عبد الله يحفظك. الحمد لله بارك الله
شنو
فيك.
كملت دكتوراه ولا لسه؟
لسه أنا حرجع إن شاء الله مرة ثانية. جيت فقط للدورة وحرجع إن شاء الله. أنا من ديسمبر وأنا في كندا. يعني I'm paid leave. الحمد لله it's much better there to just focus in this إن شاء الله. Few more months.
كويس إنه متعاونين معك يعني في
والله it's like a gentleman agreement but I job while being there for free. It's not easy. That's why it's like good and bad. خير ان شاء الله. بارك الله فيك. الله يحفظك. الله يحفظك. والله نهار سعيد شفناكم فيه. انا كنت ناوي اجي اشوفكم بس ما اعرف الارانجمنت هنا وكيف الدخول وكيف الخروج. اول مره اول مره.
كان اسهل في المبنى القديم، كان
نعم.
الطابق واحد كمان.
ايه عندكم بعيدين.
كيف حالك انت بخير؟
الحمد لله كله تمام. الله يحفظك.
الحمد لله.
بارك الله. ما اخذ وقتكم. شرحنا سوا. السلام عليكم.
dear guests, with all protocols observed, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like at the outset to greet you from the state of Palestine, capital of which, Al-Quds, and to convey to you the greetings of His Excellency President Mahmoud Abbas and Dr. Muhammad Mustafa, the Prime Minister. I'd like also to convey to you the greetings of our steadfast people who is defending their land despite the enormous challenges. Those people who are holding fast the protectors of the history and civilization of Palestine. They embody the hope and future of Palestine. I look forward to the end of the Israeli occupation to live in dignity and safety, stability and peace in an independent state and homeland. I'd like to express my heartfelt appreciation to the U.S. Secretary General and the Chair and members of the UN Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian people, and to the OIC for their constant support for the Palestinian just cause. Their continued efforts to preserve the rights of the Palestinian people and their inalienable rights are crucial for the establishment of a just peace in the occupied lands since 1967, including Al-Quds al-Sharif. This symposium comes at a difficult and critical time when Israel, the occupying force, is intensifying their aggression against the Palestinian people, reflected by discriminatory ideology, unfortunately supported by some political parties in a blatant violation of the international law. The Israeli occupation forces do not only seek to impose a coercive deportation and confiscation of lands, but they launch a brutal war against Palestine and Gaza. The Judaization pattern has been increasing by Israel, the occupying forces, by the excavation works under Al-Aqsa, and deporting the Palestinian people and destroying their homelands and their homes with the pretext that they do not have the license to build their houses. At the level of the Christian and Islamic holy shrines, Israel continued its Judaization processes by trying to alter the historic and legal status of Al-Aqsa al-Mubarak. So they are also doing so to impose the special division, excavations, and construction of tunnels to continue unabated under Al-Aqsa. They also continue to impose restrictions on the worshippers and closing the doors of the Masjid Al-Aqsa sometimes. Last year, 48,000 settlers penetrated Al-Aqsa Mosque, and since the 7th of October 2023 up to the middle of this month, 30,700 settlers stormed the Aqsa Mosque. 6 hours only were, actually 6 hours were devoted by the Israeli forces to the invasion of Al-Aqsa Mosque by the settlers. Restrictions were imposed on worshippers, on Palestinian people. Only 30,000 people were allowed to perform Al-Jum'ah prayers and other daily prayers, compared with 60,000 worshippers in the past. The Israeli occupation forces issued 1,777 decisions of deportation and more than 76 other decisions, in addition to other restrictions imposed on Christians and Muslims. The war in Al-Quds is an existential war in which Israel exercises racial discrimination against Al-Quds people in an attempt to forcefully deport them. This war does not save even all peoples and even animals. They have continued the destruction of homes and the deportation of Palestinians with weak pretexts. 364 commercial and residential enterprises were destroyed by Israel. Since the beginning of the war, Israel exploited the situation and committed genocide and it persisted in the Judaization processes. They demolished since the beginning of the war up to the middle of this month 222 residential and commercial units were destroyed. This led to the displacement of more than 400 Palestinians. And also they have adopted resolutions of deportation and destruction of the houses by their own people. Otherwise, the Palestinians should pay penalties if they do not destroy their houses with their own hands. Also, they have issued evacuation decisions in Sheikh al-Jarrah and other districts. In a related development, Israel continued to implement its settlement activities to separate Al-Quds from its Palestinian entourage, and then that Al-Quds people may become a minority in their own city. 300,000 settlers were brought to live in, and there are thousands of settlement units continue to be built. And 35% of the Palestinian people's lands have been confiscated. From the south, we find the settlement of Jabal Abu-Naim, which hosts more than 7,000 residential units, which separates Al-Quds from Al-Khalil city and Beit Laham city. There's also another settlement project with 10,000 settlement units at the level of Al-Quds International Airport at the Qalandia village to separate Al-Quds from Ramallah. We have also Qiwan, a project which eliminates any possibility of geographical expansion in the future. It separates the south of the western bank from its northern part. There are also other series of bridges and tunnels to link the settlement with other settlements. And up to the middle of the last month, the Israeli occupation forces had approved the establishment of nearly 10,000 settlement units. Israel tries to service their settlement replacement projects, and this is reflected by the project of the city, which is spread over 700 dunam, which also eliminates a possibility of the city being a touristic city. And also they're implementing the project of the light train. This changes the status of the city. Also, this includes the Tabu project has a special place on the agenda of the Israeli government, which seek to control thousands of dunams. Also, we should not forget the brutal Israeli attack against education and their attempts to change the curricula and to impose new curricula to eliminate the Palestinian identity. They have adopted decisions to withdraw licenses of schools as they teach Palestinian curriculum. Students are forced also to to be subjected to search in search for their Palestinian books. Your Excellency, the chairman of the committee, the war aggravated the humanitarian tragedy in Gaza. The humanitarian crisis has been aggravated, and also the military operation is not only causing immediate sufferance, but also is aimed at weakening the steadfastness of Palestinians. Al-Quds is not far from Palestine.
The United Nations Charter, as well as UN security resolutions. This require international response against the escalation by the Israelis, and this affirms the need for accountability and justice. The international community cannot stay aloof against these acts, and they have to take measures to end the occupation. The Security Council must implement its resolutions and avoid duplication and address the Palestinian issues. We have to stand against unjust resolutions that affect the Palestinians. We call on the international community to provide protection for the Palestinian people in the occupied Palestinian territory, including Al-Quds. We have to abide by the legal and moral responsibilities to allow the Palestinian peoples to exercise their inalienable rights and achieve their aspirations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to speak to your esteemed committee. I hope that this symposium will lead to effective support for the Palestinian cause. Thank you very much.
Colonial urban space in Palestine, politics and development. She is also the co-editor of the periodical Al-Quds. Authored by the Office of the President of the State of Palestine and Al-Quds University. Dr. Saman, it's my pleasure and honor to have you with us. It's my pleasure also to give you the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Your Excellency, Ambassador Sheikh Myang. It's an honor to present before Your Excellency. I shall be talking about colonial urban planning in Jerusalem and in Gaza. And you can see here the presentations and the maps. I shall begin with a brief introduction of the geopolitical context of Jerusalem. And this is mandatory Palestine, the West Bank, and this is the location of Jerusalem. Geopolitically, next. Geopolitically, the boundaries of the city of Jerusalem have been altered several times during the recent different historical periods. We see here the enlargement of the boundaries of the city of Jerusalem since 1948. Between 1948 and 1967, Jerusalem was divided by the Green Line to form East and West Jerusalem. After 1967, the boundaries indicated here in the blue line were expanded in such a crooked way to include as much as possible vacant land and exclude Palestinian populated areas. Since 1967 till the day, and especially in vacant lands, Israeli settlements have been constructed in East Jerusalem, and a demographic war has been taking place. In fact, one of the main goals of the 2020 Municipality Master Plan is to reduce the number of Palestinians from 40% to 30%. It is indeed a striking situation when a city master plan and urban planning is used to decrease the percentage of a particular group of the city whose existence precede the creation of the Israeli state. Despite the complexity of Israeli methods of control over Palestinians, which form a matrix of control, colonial urban planning is one of the important tools employed to achieve this control. It affects the people and land, not only spatially, but also temporally, disrupting the Palestinian spaces and impacting their time. It is a situation where spatiality of injustice and injustice of spatiality intertwine. Through the normalization and marginalization of Palestinian spatial presence, where injustice is embedded in space, created and maintained through space. The imprint is on time, space, and everyday frequencies become in all antagonistic, and the whole purpose is to disjoint the connection between the human being with land and heritage. Spatially, if we look at how lands are distributed in Jerusalem, we see that 35% are expropriated for Israeli settlements, 22% zoned for green areas and public infrastructure, 30% unplanned areas, and there are only 13% of areas left for Palestinian construction, which is already built and inhabited. And the projected need for Palestinian housing units is 50,000 units by 2030. These are the boundaries of Jerusalem. These are the built-up areas outside the municipality borders. These are the built-up areas inside the boundaries, and these are the Israeli settlements, more Israeli settlements, and this is the segregation wall that started to be constructed in 2002. This is area E1 mentioned. It's another proposal for an Israeli settlement area, and these are some of the checkpoints surrounding the city that restrict the movement of Palestinians from West Bank to Jerusalem, except with Israeli permits. Israeli settlements, the segregation wall checkpoints, all these colonial infrastructure have surrounded the city. They form a mechanism of exerting domination and control over Palestinians. Many urban areas, which are nodes that were flourishing and vibrant with life, have become transformed into dead ends, like the example here. Yes. This is the Kubsa Junction, where the segregation wall divided the once vibrant street into two dead parts. In terms of housing, key elements of the right of adequate housing, at a minimum, include security of tenure, availability of services, affordability, habitability, accessibility, a suitable location, and cultural adequacy. However, in East Jerusalem, these aspects are rarely fulfilled for Palestinians. In the old city of Jerusalem, as an example, this area suffers from degraded housing units. Palestinians cannot renovate their houses except after acquiring a permit from the municipality, which is difficult to obtain. Also, there is a commercial dry up, and many shops have been shut down when owners are unable to pay fees and taxes. People are surveyed 24/7, where cameras are installed in such a way to expose all angles. Israeli settlements are also expanding seizure of houses and bringing in additional security measures. Now, in terms of housing, a housing unit is very expensive, where 100 square meter costs around, in somewhere like Beit Hanina neighborhood, north of the old city, costs around $500,000. Also, obtaining a permit is a very complicated procedure, costing over $45,000 only for the permit for a 100 square meter apartment. That's only for the permit, apart from the construction. So, and it is acquiring a building permit is also not guaranteed, especially that new laws are constantly being devised to further complicate the procedure. The annual average of building permit issued is 120. We can see from the graph here The yellow is the number of permits issued for Palestinians, and the blue and red are those issued for Israelis. So the Palestinian neighborhoods in East Jerusalem suffer from dire housing conditions with high density and overuse of space. There are also neglected areas located inside the boundaries of East Jerusalem but outside the segregation wall, and such areas suffer from urban chaos. Due to these and other problems, people tend to risk the difficult situation of building without permits. In the West Bank, East Jerusalem, people face domicide, which is the destruction of home and result in slow herbicide, which is the violent destruction of cities and their character. Home demolition is a compound trauma, a state of dispossession, where memories, dreams, and hopes are lost, killing the everydayness of life in one's own home. These are the numbers of, in the graph, these are the numbers of housing units demolished since 2006, exceeding 150 in 2023. There are also cases of self-demolition, where the owner is obliged to demolish his home or structure by himself, where the victim is forced to be the implementer of the demolition. And annually, tens of cases have been self-demolished in the last 15 years. Self-demolition not only jeopardizes and curtails development, but activates the development as well. People are compelled to self-demolish their houses to avoid the imprisonment and the enormous cost of demolishing by the municipalities. These costs not only include the bulldozers and workers, but also include the costs for the police forces that are called to isolate the neighborhood, in addition to the inflicted fines of not removing the rubble from the site. In other areas, like Shafat refugee camp, which is within municipal boundaries and outside the segregation wall, it suffers from chronic degraded urban fabric, lack of services, and socioeconomic problems. Other areas, like where the Bedouin communities reside, they face displacement, demolition of structure, sewage dumping from Israeli settlements in an attempt to force them to leave and change their lifestyle. So part of the use of colonial urban planning results in settlements building, new infrastructure, closure, deteriorated Arab neighborhoods, which all affect the everyday life of the Palestinians. In fact, these affect the quality of life through the everyday uncertainties, producing differences in temporal patterns upon the daily lives of Palestinians. Colonial disciplining is practiced where colonial planning facilitates advancement of Israeli time saving, while simultaneously and in contrast diminishing accomplishment for the Palestinian through systematic time depletion. In the Gaza Strip, the situation in Gaza before 2005 was not different, where Israeli settlements were constructed, checkpoints were there as well. However, after the Israeli settlements were evacuated and demolished, a new way of control was practiced on the Palestinians. Gaza became the biggest open-air prison in the world. It is surrounded by a 60-kilometer-long Israeli fence. About 2.3 million Palestinians locked in Gaza. Limited access of medical treatment, highest unemployment, difficulties meeting essential educational needs, around 60% requiring food assistance, and Rafah border is closed for long periods of time. Power, water, fuel supply were restricted well below basic needs, with daily power cuts and 78% of water being unsuitable for human consumption. All these policies, in addition to the restriction of areas within 300 meters of the perimeter fence, affected agricultural activities, decreased exports significantly, restricted access of the coast, and fishermen restricted of 50% of the fishing waters. All these policies show how control of space and people has changed from one form to another. Overarching all these impacts has been the successive use of military attacks on the confined people, starting with 2008-9 war until the current war of today, where people have been killed and buildings were demolished continuously. And these are some of the numbers of demolished houses before the current war. And this graph shows the number, Next. This graph shows the continuous and increasing death tolls during major military attacks, increasing during military attacks like 2014. Until the current war, where death tolls increased tremendously, over 37,000 documented dead and over 10,000 missing, in addition to the high numbers of injured, imprisoned, and displaced. Also, all sectors have been destroyed, including education, health, industry, agriculture, cultural heritage, and transforming Gaza into an unviable space. It is exponentially accelerated herbicide. In fact, these genocidal trends were emphasized from the beginning of the Zionist project, where Herzl's pamphlet on the creation of the Jewish state mentioned this clearly. It said, "Force shall be used only when necessary for preserving the state and order, and if obliged to clear a country of wild beasts, would organize a huge, large, active hunting party, drive the animals together, and throw a melanite bomb into their midst." That's in 1896. This dehumanization of the classification of the people and their killing is manifested today in real time in Gaza. This corresponds with what Patrick Wolfs described as elimination as a foundational structure of settler colonialism. I would also like to emphasize briefly the environmental aspect. Over 30% of the Gaza population adopted solar panels as an alternative traditional energy sources despite initial costs to meet daily electricity needs. The environmental injustices impacted global environment, exploiting of valuable ecological resources which have been exacerbated and compounded. Tens of thousands of tons of explosive deployed, surpassing the bomb dropped on Hiroshima during World War II. A Guardian January 9 report says that emissions generated during the war on Gaza surpassing the annual carbon footprint of over 20 of the world's most climate vulnerable nations. Another report suggests that emissions from the first 120 days of the war exceed the annual emissions of 26 countries and territories. Between October 2023 and February 24, carbon emissions from bombs dropped on Gaza are equivalent to the carbon emitted by powering almost 10,000 homes for a year. For Palestinians, despite all of this and the uncertainties and constraints of the people in time and space, the dynamic of still showing and practicing steadfastness and sumud to remain living is outstanding despite all. Spontaneous yet creative to encounter, overcome, or manipulate such constraints. Next. For Palestinians, the passion for knowledge and life with dignity remains stronger than the boundaries of hatred. Thank you.
Dr. Saman, I would like to thank you most warmly for your informative and well-documented presentation. We are really grateful. The time limit was short, but you managed really to give us lots of valuable information. Thank you. It is my pleasure now to present to you a familiar face to the committee and a friend of the committee, who will be our third and last speaker for this panel. Focusing on forced displacement, international law, and Jerusalem. It's good to have you with us. It's my pleasure to give you the floor.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It's really a great honor to speak before all of you, Excellencies. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, sisters and brothers. So So I will, since we have 7 minutes, I will be speaking first generally, but more I will be focusing on the actions that states can take right now in order to enforce international law. We are currently at a historical turning point. The presentations that you have heard since the opening session in the morning, but also the presentations that you've heard now from my colleagues, show that what has been described 4 years ago by a number of human rights organizations, Palestinian, Israeli, and international, as an apartheid regime that Israel is running within the occupied Palestinian territory and within the areas where it assumes its sovereign territory, has developed into a genocidal regime as well. We are witnessing today a fully fledged genocide in Gaza Strip, where Palestinians are murdered daily. And to be honest with you, I know that many Palestinians, especially in Gaza, envy the martyrs for having been killed, because the surviving Palestinians are suffering during their survival. We have famine that is spreading around the Gaza Strip as a result of an intentional campaign by Israel to prevent the essential needs, including food and water, from accessing the Gaza Strip. We have mass displacement in Gaza Strip, as you have heard earlier today. And we have mass destruction in the Gaza Strip, where now we have no more universities, no more courts, no more, a lot of the health facilities have been destroyed as well, and many others. We are witnessing unprecedented and unimaginable torture. Unimaginable torture. The level of torture that is happening right now in Gaza Strip and degrading treatment is not something that we can imagine that it actually exists. And I always wonder, how can any human being see the suffering that they are inflicting upon prisoners? And by the way, the prisoners are not necessarily people who Israel wants to interrogate. A lot of them are health workers. A lot of them are, just normal people. But any prisoner now is being tortured, and there is a large scale of levels of torture, but it's really unimaginable. This is all, and there is much more, obviously, but this is all what we see from Gaza Strip. But also when we look at Al-Quds, Jerusalem, we can see that there is an ongoing and expanding revocation of residencies, expanding displacement on an ongoing and continuous basis. The Israeli colonial policies of dispossessing Palestinians from land in order to Judaize the land, as they themselves call it, is still continuous and is actually becoming quicker. Israel is using its own legal system, and that's why, by the way, it's called an apartheid regime. Its own legal system, its laws, in order to inflict all of these violations of international law. It uses, for example, laws like the absentee property law in order to take Palestinian land from those who have been displaced, or many of who have not been displaced, who are still in Palestine. Abandoned property law as well. Confiscation for public interest. And as His Excellency, the Minister, Minister Dr. Ashraf Al-A'war has mentioned earlier, there is a very dangerous land tripartite settlement project happening right now in Jerusalem. Israel is registering land now. It has started this since 2018, actually, after the US recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Registering land right now on a continuous basis in order to change the ownership within the record of the Israeli government. This is, I think, the most dangerous land expropriation project since the occupation of 1967. Now, the important question, and there is much more, of course, to talk about, but I'm going to turn into the important question. What can we do? And this is the real question that all of us should think about. Obviously, there is an important effort right now within the United Nations General Assembly, within different member states, also in OIC, in a campaign that is aiming at getting more and more recognition of the State of Palestine, trying to get a membership of the State of Palestine in the United Nations, which is, an important campaign. However, coming from the human rights field and the civil society background, I would argue that what we really need right now is to focus on holding Israel accountable and holding complicit states accountable. Unless we manage, because at the end of the day, it's an issue of power. Israel is able to commit genocide today because it believes that it has an unlimited power and that the states that are complicit with it, I can name a few, for example, the United States. I can name the UK, which I will mention later, and many others, Germany, for example, that these states are supporting it unconditionally in a way that will lead to continuous impunity, which we have been witnessing over the past decades. So what do we need to do right now? The first thing is individual sanctions from individual states. We've started seeing that. We already have a number of states that decided sanctions against Israel. These sanctions, I would mention Malaysia, I would mention Turkey, Colombia, and others. These sanctions are actually very effective. They send a message to Israel that it is losing internationally, but also it is actually getting people from within Israel who are seeing that their interests, their financial and economic interests are starting to be threatened, creating more and more pressure. But we also need sanctions that are decided by international organizations. International organizations including OIC, including the Arab League, but also within this power that we have through these important organizations, we can also apply pressure within the UN General Assembly to start discussing more and more sanctions. And, let me just remember that at the time when in South Africa there was an apartheid regime, at the beginning, the global north did not want to see sanctions against South Africa. But the global south led the movement, and the global south won in this movement, and eventually applied sanctions on South Africa. And later on, the global north followed the global south in a way that eventually led to the dismantlement of the apartheid regime. This is a great example before us that we can learn from, and I believe that we have to continue following up and having a significant campaign that focuses on sanctions on Israel specifically. Another thing that states can do right now is to join legal efforts, and this is something that actually OIC and the Arab League have decided already in the summit in Riyadh. It was an important summit, and there were very important resolutions that were taken during the summit. So it's very important that OIC on the one hand, but also individual states do their best to join South Africa versus Israel in order to hold Israel accountable for the genocide, but also to support other types of cases for third-party responsibility. And we have a good example of Nicaragua versus Germany, which maybe has not gotten enough coverage, but I think it's a very important case because it is, and it's not closed yet, by the way. Yes, we haven't gotten any, provisional measures by the court, but it's still open, and I think it's very promising. These types of initiatives are important because they put the interest of the states that are complicit in genocide and in war crimes and crimes against humanity at risk of losing their own interests, and that's very important. This is an important theory. Finally, the International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court now certainly has jurisdiction over Palestine. Recently, after Karim Khan, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, requested arrest warrants against only 2 Israeli officials, the United Kingdom has recently, just like we learned about this last week, has gone back to the ICC with a request asking to argue against the court's jurisdiction over Israelis. Basically, the crux of the argument of the UK is Palestine, because of Oslo, cannot prosecute Israelis because this is something within the Oslo agreement. Therefore, the ICC cannot prosecute Israelis in the state of Palestine since Palestine itself does not have that right, so it cannot give it to an international court. Of course, this is not a good legal argument. There are many arguments against this, and now we have several, at least academic and civil society parties that are working, and I'm sure that also the government of the state of Palestine is also preparing for the appropriate responses in the court. But I also think that it is very important that the OIC, as an international organization, would intervene in this process. The court has actually asked any states or other parties who would like to submit an amicus curiae to the court to do so. So we have until 12th of July to submit this request. So I believe it's very important to do this intervention, because imagine that the UK succeeds in its request. In such a case, the ICC will only have jurisdiction over Palestinians, and it will be, counterproductive. There is a genocide going on, but the ICC cannot use its jurisdiction against all of these war crimes and crimes against humanity. Hence, it's very important. Finally, I would say it's very important for us to centralize fighting apartheid, including maybe by reactivating the apartheid committee within the UN General Assembly, or if the Palestine committee would take these responsibilities in a similar way that the apartheid committee did during the time of South Africa. I think that would be also, because we need a prolonged campaign to hold Israel and Israelis accountable. Without this type of campaign, we will meet in more and more conferences where we will be discussing what are the violations that Israel did, and we will still continue to feel unable to respond. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really honored to be among you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Musaiba, for your detailed and inspiring presentation, for sharing your insight, and also sharing some action proposals. I'm sure the committee will review all of them, but I'm looking forward to having discussions maybe about those proposals. Thank you once again. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to start our discussion. Participants are welcome to ask questions or make comments on the presentations of our guest speakers. I would request you really to make short interventions because time is limited. We shall take a few comments and questions from the audience at a time. Then I will give the floor to our speakers to give them the opportunity to respond. And we shall continue like this. So before speaking, please introduce yourselves at the beginning. And as I said, make your statements as short as possible. I can see one hand there on my left. You have the floor, sir.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. معكم عثمان رحو نائب المندوب الدائم للمملكة المغربية لدى منظمة التعاون الإسلامي. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على مولانا رسول الله وآله وصحبه. سعادة الرئيس السيد شيخ نيانغ رئيس اللجنة المعنية بممارسة الشعب الفلسطيني لحقوقه غير قابل للتصرف أصحاب السعادة حضرات السيدات والسادة. ستكون كلمتي المملكة المغربية قصيرة السيد الرئيس احتراما للتوقيت الذي حددتموه. أولا
First of all, the King of Morocco, who is King, chairs Al-Quds committee, one of the OIC standing committees, is pleased to address to His Excellency Sheikh Niang, Chairman of the United Nations Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian people, and the members of the committee for express thanks to this committee for the efforts it and also like to thank the OIC Secretary General. Morocco had the honor of hosting the International Symposium on Al-Quds in 2018, which was opened with the statement of the King Mohammed Sadis, Chairman of the Quds Committee, who underlines the centrality of Al-Quds cause. The holding of this symposium in this critical juncture sends an important message to the world that the Palestinian cause is the key to peace and stability in the Middle East, and that the negotiations is the only way to reach a solution to establish permanent and comprehensive peace. King Mohammed VI sent annual messages to the UN Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian people, underlining the position of Morocco towards the legitimate rights. There is no sound. The microphone went off. So in more than one occasion, we underlined the importance of protecting the legal status of Al-Quds and respect for the right to exercise rituals, religious rituals, and the sanctity of Al-Aqsa Mosque, Your Excellencies. The continued of Israeli war on Gaza leads to a continued of a real tragedy of more than 2 million people in the Gaza Strip who live in unbearable conditions with the blockade imposed on Gaza and the restriction on the access to food supplies. Living in this place, which is the most densely populated area in the world, make it very difficult for people to live in. Proceeding from solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and given the crisis prevailing therein, the king ordered the sending of urgent assistance to Gaza and the offering of scholarships to the Palestinian students. The first was on the 27th July, which assumed special importance because it offered medical supplies to Gaza, which suffer from a very difficult health situation. Morocco, led by King Mohammed VI, renews its support to all the initiatives and proposals aimed at ensuring a ceasefire in Gaza and protecting the civilians and dealing with the situation seriously in order to stop the bloodshed and to create conditions conducive to finding a solution. And thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank you for your intervention. I'd like to express the appreciation of our committee to the leadership played by His Majesty King Mohammed VI in his capacity as chairman of Al-Quds committee, which we carries out with honor, and I'd like to salute his personal engagement, and we also would like to commend the solidarity of Morocco to the Al-Quds cause, not only the Al-Quds but also the Palestinian cause. I'd like also to speak about our pride to see this committee playing its role, doing efforts for this common cause. I had the opportunity to meet Director Erasure to discuss how we could develop cooperation between your committee and our committee, because we share the same mission. Once again, I'd like to thank you. I do not know who wishes to take floor. Yes, you have the floor, sir. Thank you, Excellency, for giving me the floor. Your Excellencies, I'm representative Beit Al-Quds Sharif Agency of Al-Quds Committee under the chairmanship of King Mohammed VI.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, when I journeyed to Jerusalem, a long distance between my homeland and the Levant, navigating roads that seems impossible lead to the closest point to the heaven. In the past, I traveled more than 3,000 kilometers directly to reach this holy city, a distance far shorter than the thousands of kilometers my Moroccan ancestors traveled to arrive there. Today, as the head of the Beit Al-Quds Sharif Agency and upshot of the Al-Quds Committee chaired by His Majesty King Mohammed VI, King of Morocco, who directly supervises the agency's work, I'm actually aware, as you are, that Jerusalem has long been and will continue to be a focal point of a global conflict. The Beit Al-Quds Sharif Agency diligently carries out its duties in support of Al-Quds and its resilient population, guided by a nuanced understanding of the rapid social changes affecting various aspects of life in the Holy City. I would like to point here that the Kingdom of Morocco's financial contribution is 100%. At our agency, we are fully aware that the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the repercussions of the global economic crisis, the outcome of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and the ongoing aggression against Gaza further complicated the Palestinian issue, diamond prospects for resolutions. In this regard, I would like to recall the unique status of Al-Quds as a city revered by followers of monotheistic religions, was reaffirmed in the Al-Quds Appeal, signed by His Majesty the King of Morocco and Pope Francis in Rabat on March 13, 2019. In his speech on the occasion of welcoming Pope Francis in Rabat, the commander of the faithful emphasized that the three monotheistic religions exist to open up to one another with the aim of talking radicalism through mutual understanding. This approach allows for addressing contemporary challenges through education. His Majesty stressed the importance of education, considering it's the only way to combat radicalism, which stems from, and I quote, failure to know one another, which is due to ignorance of the other, and to ignorance pure and simple, pointing out, and I quote, to tackle radicalism, all types of radicalism, the solution is neither military nor financial. That solution has but one name: education. Additionally, I acknowledge the Hashemite guardianship of King Abdullah II of Jordan of the Islamic and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem. We consider that humanitarian heritage of the Holy City inspires the advocacy of values such as tolerance, peace, coexistence, while fully respecting the belief and convictions of all. The socio-economic indicators in Palestine, especially in the city of Al-Quds, strongly influence the agency's action and objectives. These efforts serve all segments of Al-Quds population, affirming the relevance of the pragmatic approach it adopts to overcome existing obstacles and constraints. Finally, allow me to extend my congratulations to the organizers of this conference, including the OIC General Secretariat and the UN Committee for Palestine, for their steadfast stance against hatred, discrimination, and racism directed at the Palestinian people, Al-Quds. One final note, I would like to remind your honors that His Majesty the King delivered a speech at a comparable meeting convened by the United Nations Committee on Palestine in Rabat on June 26, 2018, in collaboration with the Moroccan Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. In his address, His Majesty emphasized the significance of the conference and advocated for its expansion to Western countries to enhance awareness among the communities about the ongoing transformation in the Middle East region. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you.
I thank Dr. Eshar Kowi for his statement. Any other one? Yes, I can see you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm representing Indonesia. I'm Deputy Permanent Representative of Indonesia to the OIC. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair. I thank you, the panelists, for the insightful presentations, to our OIC and to the UN Committee of Palestine colleagues for making this symposium possible in Jeddah. Today's meeting underscores Jerusalem's importance in ending Israeli occupation. Jerusalem is not a place, not just a place, it is the heart of Palestinian identity. We share the deep concern of the panelists with the surging settler violence, forced evictions, and demographic change in Jerusalem. In this regard, I wish to highlight 3 points. First, we must not be blindsided by the situation in Gaza and must continue to uphold the status of Jerusalem, including key holy sites. This is important to maintain international peace and security. Over the past 9 months, while the world's focus is on Gaza, the situation in Jerusalem and other parts of Palestine continue their tyranny. The June 2024 Commission of Inquiry report revealed that between 2 October 2023 to 30 April 2024, Israeli forces killed 457 Palestinians. I repeat, 457 Palestinians, including 112 boys in the West Bank of East Jerusalem, the highest toll since 2005. These issues are interconnected. We must address the root causes, with occupation being the core issue. Second, continue to push for an end to all acts of violence, to push for accountability. Continued violence and provocation in Jerusalem have a very high potential for escalation. The OIC countries must unite and use their influence for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza to escalate tension in Jerusalem and indeed in the region. We must also continue to support efforts for accountability as referred by the panelists. Third, in parallel, we must continue to push and make progress on supporting Palestinian independence. Two-state solution remains the only viable solution where the status of Jerusalem forms an intrinsic part of. We must pursue all steps in this direction, including ensuring Palestinian unity and pushing for the recognition of the state of Palestine. Indonesia welcomed the recent wave of recognitions across different regions. Palestine's full membership in the UN must also continue to be pursued. Granting Palestine a UN membership will help a state building and strengthen Palestine's statehood. Mr. Chair, finally, we owe to the Palestinian people their freedom and independence. Central to this a maintaining sanctity and status of Jerusalem. Indonesia reiterates our support towards. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Your statement is as strong as is the support of Indonesia to the Palestinian cause. I think it is epitomized by the participation of Indonesia within the committee as member of the Bureau with Tata, Okul Tata, and his predecessors, who have all played a very important role in making sure that the committee exerts its functions fully. And this is a holy task, I would say, for all of us. And he's doing it with other colleagues who are here, whom I should have presented before even we started this meeting, because these are the heroes. I'm only the one carrying the voice, but they are the ones really giving me the instructions and showing me the way. And we have Ambassador Neville here. Can you stand up, please? I'm of Namibia. And we have Ambassador Faisal of Malaysia. Can you stand up, please? Ambassador Jaime from Nicaragua. So these are the people who are behind the committee, really working very, very well in night and day for the committee. So we have also Kuba, who should have been with us, but he's sick. But we are all in the same moment. So I'm not seeing any other one requesting for the floor, and we have only 15 minutes left. And I would like to ask if our panelists, if they wish to take the floor, they can do it, but just giving us very briefly, 1 minute, a key message they want us to take with us. Minister.
شكرا لكل المتحدثين اللي كلياتهم حكوا طبعا بنقاط مهمة، ويمكن لازم يعني نعمل على هذه النقاط بجدية. الرسالة اللي بدي اللي حابب أبعثها من القدس، اللي أنا بتمنى إنه كلياتكم تكونوا حاملينها، إنه إحنا
which I wish that you will shoulder the message of Al-Quds, because we came with this message to transmit it to you. We carry it to you so that you may be the best ambassadors for Al-Quds cause. This is my message. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to thank Morocco for the efforts exerted by Beit al-Mal and the role played for Quds and the Quds committee. I would like to thank Indonesia also, in particular, and all the other speakers. Stopping the war is the first priority, of course, and all the Palestinian areas also suffer, but the priority, of course, is to stop the war and to allow access for assistance to and the rebuilding of Gaza. I thank you all and thank the OIC as well.
Dr. Saman, Dr. Nusayba. If Israel is not held accountable for its crimes, it will continue to do its crimes. Accountability happens through legal means that are available to us. International law does not belong only to the West, does not belong to the global North. It belongs to us, to all of us, but we have to enforce it in the same way that they enforce international law when their interest is at stake. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nusayba. Minister Riyad Mansour will deliver the final remarks, but before you do that, I would like to, on behalf of the committee, to express our deep appreciation to the distinguished speakers who shared their knowledge and experience from Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. And thanks also go to those who have intervened to make statements. We will conclude this event very soon. The committee will have its press conference right after we finish this session. And please be reminded that the panel discussion organized by the OIC's Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission will be held here at 3 o'clock this afternoon. On behalf of the committee, I would like to thank the speakers once again, the audience, while these days and weeks all our eyes are on Gaza, and while we are working separately but jointly on achieving an immediate ceasefire and the provisioning of the Palestinian population in Gaza with humanitarian aid, we must not lose sight of the situation in occupied East Jerusalem and the West Bank, because we might be led to forget that. And a spark in the holy sites could ignite the whole region. I would like to thank all the experts for having traveled to Jeddah to share with us their knowledge and expertise. Our thanks go also to member states of the UN and the OIC and the representative in Jeddah, the civil society organizations and the media who contributed to make this symposium a success. I would like to express also our deepest gratitude for the support and collaboration of the OIC, who is hosting this event here at its headquarters, and to the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for facilitating holding this event. I would like also to thank the Division for Palestinian Rights, who are on my left, for all the work they have done to organize this symposium. The chair summary of this symposium will be posted on the website of the committee at www.unispal.un.org. I would like to use this moment also to highlight that we can follow the activities of the committee by following our social media channels on X, former Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. You can find us on all of them under the handle Unispal. Now I have the distinct honor and the pleasure to give the floor to my friend, Minister Mansour, to deliver his closing remarks.
Thank you, Sheikh Niang, my twin brother-in-law. We individually we say that we are twins and we are working for the same objective. I associate myself with your remarks, Sheikh Niang, in expressing our gratitude to the OIC and to the committee and to all those who participated with us in making this truncated, conference a step, a very important step in reviving our collective efforts to defend Jerusalem and to address the issues related to the challenges facing the city of Jerusalem and the people in that city. In this regard, I want also to express my appreciations to the Honorable Minister, my brother, and to my sister, and to my other brother, Munir, for being with us and telling you, from their perspective, the different aspects of the story of Jerusalem. Of course, we are also we want to express our gratitude to the Division on Palestinian Rights. They are the ones who are working behind the scenes to facilitate the work of all of us, the program, and to make that everything is working according to schedule. Of course, my colleagues who came from New York, the members of the Bureau, in full force, almost all of them, came, to demonstrate to everyone that we are determined to revive, the collaboration with the OIC on the issue of Jerusalem and to take it to a higher level above and beyond what we used to do in the past. The most important thing in this conference is that each and every one of us, countries, organizations, associations, grouping of countries such as the OIC, and individuals and activists and civil society organizations, we are all working for the same objective, which is justice for the Palestinian people. As long as each and every one of us is doing their work, we are not stepping on the feet of each other. We complement each other, and we help the Palestinian people in the best possible way. And in this regard, we thank you very much for every effort, every energy, every idea, everything that you do for the Palestinian people. The summation of our collective efforts will definitely lead, hopefully soon, not only to stopping this genocidal war against our people in the Gaza Strip, but it will get us closer to accomplishing the objective of the Palestinian people of attaining their inalienable rights, including their right to self-determination, statehood, and the right of the refugees according to international law and relevant UN resolutions. We, the Palestinian people, appreciate all this effort. You are our partners. As all of us in the past coalesced in order to help our brothers and sisters in South Africa, including Namibia, of course, to eradicate humanity from the abhorrent system of apartheid, I am sure that your collective effort will be helping us to accomplish the objectives of the Palestinian people. And from the bottom of our hearts, we say thank you to you. And as they say in Spanish, la lucha continua, and we will continue the course until we accomplish our objective. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister Mansour, with your wise and uplifting words. We have come to the end of the 2024 Symposium on the question of Jerusalem under the theme, quote, Jerusalem and the Gaza War, Palestinian identity and existence under threat of erasure, end quote. We look forward to your participation in upcoming events of the committee this year. I now declare the symposium closed. The meeting is adjourned.
showing vision
خلاص هاتي عز